What's up, guys? Welcome back. So in the meantime, while I'm waiting on some stuff to come in, I'm going to go ahead and finish kind of seam welding some of the parts of the car that still need it. And I believe I'm planning on making the lower control arms as well as the tension arms. So I'm pretty sure I still have a set of the original set of lower control arms I used. So I could use I do. Here they are. So I could use those. However, I think I did decide to lengthen these a little bit. So anyways, I need to go ahead and get some proper arms made. That way I can order the tie rod ends and kind of go from there. So just trying to finish up some of the small stuff in preparation to have this thing, once it is running, you know, hopefully I can drive it around and kind of get a feel for it. So without any more, let's get to it. What's up, guys? So just been trying to get everything kind of cleaned up before I start today, but the plan today is to go and get some arms made. The bottom one more than likely would be fine, but I think I've kind of come up with a different way I want to do it, and that's to give a bend in here for some wheel clearance, and then I'm more or less just going to cut and weld a tube here to angle to get the heim joint angle. Same with the top, because it would be nice to give room for wheel clearance. But you also got to remember, especially, you know, with more negative camber and stuff, the angles here change. So initially, like my original measurements for the are pretty much spot on and work just fine. But me, I'm always trying to figure out how to do it better, at least for my application. That would be totally fine for most people. So, and I still may change the, you know, the bends in the arm, but not necessarily the lengths. So anyways, long story short, for what I'm needing, because I have lengthened mine some, the angle isn't quite the same. And then no matter what I do with on the back here, as it turns, you know, you always, I mean, I broke wheels on my FDF kit from hitting the arm. That's just kind of one of the things with running more caster. So I am going to offset the bends to give the wheel at lock room from hitting the arm. And I think just cutting and welding the tube that way will give me the clearance I need for now. I have been playing with some prototype like billet arm stuff. So at some point, you know, I may go that route. But for now, this is kind of the simplest, and this stuff's plenty strong. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. So let's get on it. What's up, guys? So today I'm going to be finishing up. I only have one more arm to make for the front end, and overnight printing some tie rod sleeves just to be sure that when I went to order some, the links would work out. So this is the first time I've had everything more or less bolted up with the billet knuckle adapters. Man, it's sunny, it's starting to rain. So I don't know any alignment specs, nothing like that. so that's pretty decent. Especially for dual arms, which everybody says binds, but as you can see here, aside from the heims just being used hundreds of times for stuff like this, there's no bind in here. So anyways, none of these washers will really be there. I do have to order some steel spacers and get, like, say, correct size bolts for this. So, and I have some steel spacers to order for in there. So what I'm doing now, I think tomorrow is when my last fitting will be here for the fuel cell. I know I keep saying that. So I kind of, for now, just want to get everything mocked up and get like a final tally of exactly what I need to order. Since I use the S197 inner subframe there, the main cradle, it actually has a smaller bolt. So with the these are 7/8 3/4 heims. So I need to do a reducer from, right now it's for 5/8, which is what they came with and what the S550 is, and that's a 1/2 inch, I believe. So I just need to do the offset spacer, order some of those, and again, like I said, just a couple of the different little like steel DOM style tube spacers to kind of use for adjustment in the tie rod, so the lower control arm, and then of course to offset my arms. So, but yeah, overall, I mean, that's a ton of angle. And it's also like super adjustable. Even the Ackerman's adjustable, which right now I just kind of have the neutral one in there. And for now, I just use like the stock ABS hole, bolt hole as a bump stop, and I may actually weld a piece here and use that as the bump stop. I decided, or I may just put like a spacer on the inside of the rack. That's kind of the easiest in my opinion. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm about to get the other arm welded up, bolted on, and we'll see what's next. Okay, so on the live data, everything looks good, except it still is saying crank fueling disabled. So versus, instead of messing with that right at the moment, I do have, it does say something about a neutral safety switch code, which is a manual car. The computer was supposed to be for a manual, so, well, it really shouldn't matter, because it has been, I have put it in a car before to make it run that was manual, and it ran fine. So I don't want to mess with anything until after I get the last few fittings and have, you know, fuel at the rail, and if it's not starting, then I'll troubleshoot it. But as of the moment, I kind of just have the main feed and the return there. Of course, here's the pump, there's the filter, and that goes up there. So I did just use like the factory hole here to feed it, and I'm just picking up a ground there. So, but it will go back through the harness. But as of now, you know, this is the main ignition. So flip it on, and so everything from, as far as, you know, from a standpoint of flip the switch, everything has power, what needs to, we're just about done with that. Aside from, like I said, if I got to figure out something that's keeping it from fueling when it's being turned over. And again, with it showing a neutral safety switch code, that may be, if I had to choose anything, that would be it. None of the other key on, engine off codes look really too concerning. So we'll see. The main thing is getting the fuel system done, which it is done, aside from making one fuel line from the filter to the rail. So those fittings should be here in the next 2 days or so. I did have to order 2 more straights, so it's going to put me off, I think, till Friday. But I did go ahead and get everything else built, and just to be sure I could more or less flick the switch on and everything kind of work as intended. So without any more, I'll kind of keep you guys updated as I'm working throughout the car. Okay, so I got the fuel line made earlier. The mail finally dropped my fitting off about 2. I just put some 93 in here and check it for leaks. Everything looks good, and I'm getting ready to turn it over for the first time and see what happens. Okay, so that was with no intake or oxygen sensors. I actually haven't wired hardly anything in the C110. That is like the bare minimum, in my opinion, to make it run, but that was 100% the first try. The only thing I've done up until now was confirm and check on the live data, whether or not I was seeing inputs from stuff, And honestly, the main thing I was concerned about was the crank fueling disabled. Well, however, this morning I was like, wait a minute, I have the little test light. So I plugged the test light in, and I did have injectors firing. So that kind of relieved me of that. And I more or less was expecting that to happen. So, man, that's great. Pretty excited about that. I do need to still sit down and do like a more detailed, you know, I have all the pinouts finalized because obviously I use those to wire this. But kind of sit down and get a little more in depth, get the pinouts, stuff like that, and kind of do a video overviewing every bit of the wiring. So, okay, so I've been out here the last few hours kind of messing with the throttle pedal situation. I was getting throttle codes. Luckily, I had a second pedal on the shelf. I swapped it in, more or less was getting the same 3 codes. So, and what's crazy is I ended up having 2 pins swapped, and it just so happened that going through the factory troubleshooting steps, which is, it wanted me to test the ohms between the 2 sensors, and then of course the voltage between the reference and the return. So what I had swapped was the reference and return, so just checking voltage between the 2, it was perfect. Also, I have the factory, I know there was a guy that mentioned something about splicing the harness, and I did say there's better ways to do it. Generally with stuff like this, the only thing you got to worry about is more resistance due to a splice. Splices, when done correctly, whether it's a splice or a solder joint, are just as good as a solid wire. So anyways, long story short, it's below 1 ohm. The factory, you know, the factory spec more or less, it allows for 5 ohms or less. So we're well below that. And that, obviously, all my CAN bus systems are also working. The gauges are working. So needless to say, you can do it this way if you want. I'm not saying in the future, you know, with, you know, more high dollar car or something like that, I would rather do a different route. So this is just more or less to get you guys kind of exactly what's needed and on the cheap, really. Because right now I think I've only got like $6 grand in this car total. That's total. So that's not bad at all. And that's only because I think I got 4,500 in the Coyote swap. So generally, if I put one together, I can do it much cheaper than that as well. So long story short, now after swapping, all I did was swap the 2 pins at the pedal and fired it up, revs, everything. So here, we'll go ahead and do that. May help if I put the fuel pump ground back on. So let me do that, then we'll crank it. Okay, so at the moment there's no oxygen sensors and no mass airflow hooked up, so it's not really gonna do, you know, like revving much more than that. But I have no throttle codes. I have full control of the pedal. Also, the live data looks good. Also, the only codes I'm really throwing now are irrelevant. It's 2 fan control circuits. Again, I do have relays for those, so that I can get those to go away. Also, I think that's it. Still some kind of neutral safety switch code, but I think that's like the clutch travel position sensor. It's not the clutch start sensor. So I'm just going to run it straight to ground because I have no plans of needing to press the clutch to crank it. So yeah, I think that'll probably be it for this video. I know I said that yesterday, but I really, kind of the work I was doing today, it wasn't really stuff I could video because it was just some like wire troubleshooting. So I only had 2 swapped, and basically what I did after kind of following the factory setup is just test my continuity between this pin on the pedal and that pin on the connector, the S197B, and where I ran into an issue were these 2. So once I pretty much tested 4 and realized I didn't have it, I just jumped to pin 61 and I had continuity, and that just told me I needed to swap them. And as soon as I swapped them, all those codes were gone. Everything's good to go. So at this point, I really just need to finish up the loose connections in the harness. I don't know if I'm gonna pull it back out of the car or not. I'm gonna have to cut the firewall, which ain't that big a deal. Just widen the hole a tiny bit, and then I can come back with a grommet to get the connector through more or less. But aside from that, yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video, and like, subscribe if you kind of like what you see. Hopefully in the future we'll do some other different cool. I got some ideas for some different builds. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for everyone who's commented, liked, and just reached out. I've been enjoying it. I hope you guys have too, and see you in the next video.